Welcome into the Saturday Q&A. We are all here. Steven is out. He is sick. I think, I don't know. He doesn't have the Rona, but I don't know. He's got something else. So I am your host this week like I was with Arjun 2 weeks ago. So Arjun is also here. Tyler is here. Tyler, I'll start with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. We'll see how many people stick around with Steven not here. We started with 7, now we're at 4. So let's see how this goes.
Arjun, how are you doing?
Doing good. Michigan plays today, so we'll be keeping an eye on that during the live stream. But other than that, happy to be talking Chargers football as always.
Yeah, we are happy to be talking Chargers football. And one of those things where you can go watch Chargers football is All 22. And to get that, you should go to expressvpn.com/guilty. They've partnered with us, so you can get that international game pass, even if you live in the United States. And you can use that to watch all the Chargers games. We've also been posting All 22 footage to our Patreon if you want to subscribe to that. Tyler, what's the tier level for that we're putting on Patreon?
Anybody that subscribes is access to it. So $1,
right,
that's all it takes.
$1 on Patreon, and you have access to the All 22 footage for all the Chargers games so far. So you can also go check that out, as well as expressvpn.com/guilty. Like I mentioned, we'll start with a Patreon question today. This one comes from Luke Wajenka, who asks, what do you make of the front office / Tom Telesco if they don't make a move at the upcoming trade deadline? So I guess, Tyler, I'll start with you. What would that signal to you if Tom Telesco doesn't make a move at the deadline?
It would kind of signal business as usual, and that the Chargers they think they can fix their problems with the bye week and with better health. And, with Arjun, we talked about at the law of averages the other day, that these things will return, especially the run defense, hopefully to the middle over time, or at least better than dead last, when they play the teams that aren't the Browns, the Ravens, the Cowboys. So I don't think they need to overreact to fix things to make the postseason. But on the other hand, the difference is this team they're not sitting here thinking about a 7th seed or barely sneaking in. They're trying to gun for that 1 seed or at least get a better seed. I think the Bills are probably going to take the 1st seed, but being 2 or 3 and having some home field advantage to start the postseason would be big. So should they be more all in? Maybe, but it just seems kind of business as usual for them if they don't do anything, which it's frustrating, but I also understand, because I think next year was going to be the all-in year. But then again, like I said, things have changed. They're not trying to gun for that 1 seed. So it'll be mildly frustrating, but I expect them to just be better because of their health after the bye week, some adjustments, having Andre Roberts, and because the schedule is just going to get easier. So I think they'll be better, but it would be nice to have one move in there. But I don't know. They could make a move, and I wouldn't be surprised, but I think at this point they've got their specialist returner, and that's it.
What do you think, Arjun?
Yeah, I think Tyler just kind of summed it up pretty well. The all-in year is usually a rookie quarterback's 3rd year of his deal. If we just look at some of like the top quarterbacks, like Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs traded for Frank Clark entering his 3rd year. Kyler Murray, they went and got J.J. Watt, A.J. Green, made a bunch of moves there. And then who they traded for Zach Ertz, right? Like that's a team that's going all in because it's his 3rd year of his deal. Same thing with Mahomes. And so this doesn't signal to me that it's an all-in year, which is fine. Like realistically, this team isn't built right now to be a Super Bowl contender. Unfortunately, they are very legitimate playoff contenders. I just don't think they have the depth to withstand like injuries yet, and that will take another year. So I wouldn't, it's just business as usual, like Tyler said. And like Tom Telesco is never really he trusts in the draft and develop rather than, get talent from other teams. So I wouldn't really think too much of it, and I'm not really expecting too much at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I'm not expecting too much either. And I think one thing that's important to remember is that the NFL trade deadline, you only have available what you have available to you. And usually the NFL trade deadline is not the MLB or the NBA, where you have this culture of buyers or sellers or guys who want out. So I think it's a little bit different in that regard. If you want to use Akeem Hicks as an example, because people keep bringing him up, right? Like,
hmm
I don't think they're going to trade Akeem Hicks because right now Matt Nagy and Ryan
Yeah.
Pace don't care about future draft picks because they're either going to make the playoffs this year or they're going to get fired. Like, so they don't
Fair
care that
enough.
he's not under contract in 2021. Like, maybe Tom Telesco can say, hey, here's a 5th round pick for him. But at the same time, they're concerned about this year. So, like, getting that DT is going to be hard when everybody's kind of holding on to their DTs because their jobs are on the line too. So, I think that's just one example, but you can also talk about that with players like Fletcher Cox or, anybody else that, the Chargers could potentially trade for. There's always kind of extenuating circumstances with those teams, even if on paper, maybe those contracts make sense. So I'm not expecting a lot of the trade deadline either. I think a lot of us have talked about next year as the all-in year. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens. I could see them, beefing up the defensive tackle room if they really wanted to, but, I also wouldn't expect a splash move just because, even with maybe the conservative nature of a Telesco, like the NFL trade deadline sucks. It's usually boring, except if like Jalen Ramsey causes a ruckus in Jacksonville and then he's traded to the Rams or something. Or, like when the Raiders just decided to give away Amari Cooper for fun. But other than that, there's not a huge action on the trade deadline. Like that's just the reality of it to me. But we'll see how all of that pans out. But I don't know if I would make a huge judgment of Telesco if he were to stand pat. But we'll see what happens. All right, let's get some questions going in the chat. That was our one Patreon question, so we can get some questions going there. Some super chats. I will see if Tyler's family always comes with the super chats and stickers. So
my mom's in Cabo, so I wouldn't count on it.
So you guys need to make up for Tyler's mom not being here. we need to eat. But other than that, yeah. So send us your questions, and we'll start talking and scrolling through the chat. Okay. Okay. Give me 1 second, Tyler. If you want to take
yeah, absolutely, no problem.
I
get it, man. Alex has a profile picture with a lady now, so I don't know if that's who's knocking. I don't know what's going on, but all good, Alex. No questions right now, but I think Arjun, one of the things you brought up the other day is that Storm Norton is the right tackle, and that hasn't changed. And so if that doesn't signal that the Chargers aren't exactly all in, I don't know what does. Like that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
They're going with Storm Norton and nothing's changed. No, I don't know what else is out there really, but because he's still there and they haven't really done anything, that doesn't sound like an all-in sort of year, nor should it be, especially if that's kind of your guy. A guy I'm sort of interested in. I don't think he'd be available. This is the guy that a lot of Chargers fans wanted the team to draft in 2019, but they went with Tillery early on. I would consider if he were available because the team is headed straight south right now and they're injured and they're going to need a lot of money or cap or picks next year or in future years to rebuild this team because I think they're just kind of heading nowhere. I'm interested in Draymond Jones with the Broncos as another defensive tackle option. People mentioned
from
like Fletcher Cox. Yeah. Yeah. So people mentioned like Fletcher Cox, but that deal is the Akeem Hicks is an okay deal. But Draymond Jones is a younger guy who, between the Broncos and the Chargers, he leads the defensive tackles in pressures. It's very close to Jerry Tillery's stats. And I know that doesn't excite anyone, but I do think that gives you a good rotation. And if Jones goes down, you don't have to go from, Justin Jones to a bunch of undrafted free agents. So someone like Jones, if he were available to a team or from a team that is obviously headed south, who's 3-4, and it's an ugly 3-4. They haven't played the Chargers yet. They haven't played the Chiefs yet. Things aren't looking good for them. They're probably going to fire their head coach, and they at some point are going to be in the market for a quarterback, whether that be free agency or trading up. So you can't really afford to hold on to Jones. They might want to blow it up, and you can get something back from trading Jones. And I think the Chargers could use him in their rotation, and especially if Jones is way more hurt than we think he is. That situation's still up in the air. So I would consider him over someone like Fletcher Cox. Because I think youth helps, and I think he's pretty affordable.
I'd trade for Von Miller too. I just throw that one out there. I don't think
Justin
it's gonna happen.
And
just trade for all the Broncos now that they're bad. But yeah, no. I mean, I think they could go after some of those guys, but we'll see what happens. All right. This comes from Nimbasabe. What are some of the things the Chargers have done well in any phase to help them get to 4-2, and how can they build on these positives?
Arjun?
Okay. Well, number one, I think they've been really good in the turnover margin, which in you know, it's so dumb because I remember listening to Anthony Lynn's press conferences, and he was like, to win the game, you have to be positive in the turnover margin. It's like that doesn't really apply to winning because Patrick Mahomes throws 2 picks every game and he still throws for 4 touchdowns, and the Chiefs win by however much, right? So, but I do think it's important to give the Chargers credit that like it seems like they've gone through like a full 360 where like now you're going after the ball, you're playing, instead of playing Gus Bradley's conservative defense, you're playing more of an attacking defense. In a sense, they're still trying to limit explosive plays, but they've had picks in almost every game, at least half of them, and then fumbles here and there. So it's good that they've been trying to force turnovers, but I do think that building off that is going to be tough because turnovers are one of those things that's kind of fluky, and it's just being at the right place in the right time or a quarterback making a mistake. So if they're trying to build off that, then they gotta try to get back to average at least on defense, and hopefully getting some players back will help them become better than average. But yeah, the turnovers have been something I've been impressed with so far.
Yeah, I thought one of the things they did early on, which they weren't able to do recently because of Mike Williams' injury, is I thought they did a really good job with the quick passing game. Not necessarily in like the screen passing game. I'm not a huge fan of that these days, but I do like the way they were getting the ball out quickly to Mike Williams, getting it or finding a way to get him on the move. He's a good player. A way to get him on the move and let him catch up or get yards after the catch like that was smart. I think that's a really good way to make sure that Herbert is protected, especially when Balaga went down. And in that Washington football team game, it's like, well, we're not going to sit here and wait for him to get sacked. We're going to get that ball out quick. We're going to get our guys on the move. We're going to get the ball in the hands of Mike Williams and let him go. And you've seen him do some really good things with that so far. Unfortunately, he got hurt, so I don't know how much, he'll be able to do that next week. But getting back to that, I think would be good, and getting away from that sideline screen game, which isn't really working right now.
Yeah, I think Kevin Koger brought that from the Packers. It's like that's that Devontae Adams like bubble screen where it's just like snap, 1-step drop back, and then just sling it over to Adams. That's how Williams got the touchdown versus the Cowboys. They run that multiple times with Keenan Allen. So yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of wide receiver screens. Statistically, they are the worst type of screen
Are they really?
there is. Yeah.
Okay.
We found that at PFF. So you don't really want to, utilize that too much. And like, it's outside of Slater and Lindsley, doesn't seem like the Chargers have really athletic blockers to go out and, get guys in space. So throwing it to the right side is especially worrisome.
Yeah, I mean, I do think sometimes we lose focus because, after we lost to the Ravens, we're like, have the Chargers done anything well? Even though they're 4-2. Like, they have done some things well. I mean, I think the biggest improvement, and Steven has talked about it a lot, he's the offensive line guy. I mean, that's been like the major improvement, right? You have Slater, you have Lindsley, you have Filer, and even though they've lost Balaga, as well as Odebushi, unfortunately, for the rest of the year, they're still maintaining over there. Like, I think that they've done better than a lot of people thought, better than I expected, certainly after the Cowboys game, when Bulaga went down and Norton came in. So I think that is something that you can build on. I think they have to get a little bit better in the run game when it comes to the offensive line, and particularly run blocking on the side where they have to run in Norton's direction. That's going to be a little bit more challenging. But I think when you talk about that, like, the fact that they don't have an offensive line problem as of now, that's something that is a lot better than, the last 5 years of Chargers football. That's something that I definitely think is a positive. We do have a super chat from our guy, Envy Talent, who's always on these streams. If you could undo a move from the 2020 or 2022 season and your grammar here is not great, Envy. I gotta level with you. Okay, so I guess we could start with which impact player from any team you would poach to become a Charger at this time.
I mean, like, are we talking realistically? Because I'm shooting
for
Aaron Donald every time, guys.
Shooting for, of course.
I mean, we just talked about Draymond Jones. I wouldn't mind that as a part of the rotation. A
That's a good
receiving
question,
back,
actually.
honestly,
I,
like something realistic. Someone that can catch a freaking pass other than Eckler, because it's a bunch of Kalen Ballages and Austin Eckler right now, and they need someone who's a little bit more dynamic, I think. I don't know who that would be. I'm sure Alex will cough and say Khalil Herbert at some point.
Of course.
I wanted Kylan Hill. He's a bit of a special teams guy right now, but
I guess if we're just talking about like realistic guys that we could poach, like it definitely is that defensive tackle position. That to me is like the number one thing. We've talked about Hicks and Cox, but just like anyone that is playable against the run, I think would be good. And there's plenty of guys around the league, maybe from teams that are selling. You could even talk about like maybe like the Jags, like they're probably going to sell guys. They have Roy Robertson Harris who's still there. Like, I don't know, maybe you could trade for him and, if they're selling. But other than that, I don't know. I don't think that there's like a lot of guys you can just poach. I think this first part is more interesting. If you could undo a move that they did this year for next year, what would it be?
wait, so if we could undo a move from this season, or
Yeah, basically. So like, yeah, I guess that would mean just like guys that
yeah,
they've played and all that kind of stuff.
I got one. So
All right.
I'll answer the previous question. I think if the Eagles keep sucking, sorry Alex, if
No
we get, I
problem.
don't know, Javon Hargrave's a beast, and like I think he's better than
Ooh,
Fletcher
okay.
Cox at this point. I don't think he's going to be
That's fair.
available, and I don't know how he fits in this 1.5 gap system.
Right.
But yeah, he's a beast. Like all his stats are good. Like he pretty much is blown by every single interior offensive lineman he's gone against. But I think one move I would make, I guess this is in hindsight, but cutting Casey Hayward over Chris Harris seems like it's been a disaster. Not a disaster, but doesn't seem like it's been the best move. Obviously Harris he's probably playing hurt right now, which unfortunately like that's just the situation we're in. It was supposed to be a 6-week injury apparently, and he came back in 3. So props to him for getting healthy. And obviously like his veteran presence is good, but Casey Hayward is balling, man. Like the guy, when we talk about the whole idea that coverage is streaky from year to year, and it's hard to find a consistent coverage player outside of like guys like Jalen Ramsey or I don't know, like I feel like he's one of the only ones who's really stayed consistent year to year. Casey Hayward had a really bad year last year, but before that, in that 2019 year, he was balling, right? Like everyone was talking, like all Chargers fans, like he's top 5. Now he fell out of the top 10, but now he's probably one of the best cornerbacks in the league right now. So I don't know how he would have fit in Staley's scheme. I'm not sure. Chris Harris is a free agent next year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if we had a proper chance to evaluate Hayward in this defense, like I don't know, maybe he would have fit better. Maybe putting him in Chris Harris's role would have been cool because like I'm sure Casey has the flexibility to play safety. I'm not sure if his tackling is good enough to play nickel though, which is important. But it seems like Steven was on Chris Harris's ass about his tackling in the Ravens game. So yeah, that would have been pretty. It would have been an interesting fit in the scheme, and I don't know what they would have done with Asante Samuel also.
Yeah, Steven was messaging our group chat and he was like, oh man, Chris Harris really wasn't good this game when he was watching all 22. And then like 30 minutes later, he messaged us and said it got worse. So, wasn't a great day for Chris Harris. I don't know. I think when we talk about moves that we could undo from this year, I think for me, it might be the Trey McKitty pick because I think there were some guys that could have contributed earlier, particularly when we're talking about like defensive line and some of these positions. And I don't know, I guess going back to the draft, I gave him a lot of stuff, but Larry Roundtree, like, I just don't know what the vision is at this point because he was a healthy scratch last week and now he's supposedly bringing no special teams value. So, I mean, I think there were really good draft picks. I think there have been confusing draft picks from last year. And then you have someone like Jaimez who like we think should play, but they don't trust him to play yet. So I think there were some perplexing moves in the draft that maybe they'd like to have back. We do have a super chat from Sean O'Brien. Way too early, number one draft need. Also get Cooks. I assume he's referring to Brandon Cooks there in Houston. I think he's in Houston. But way too early, number one draft need for 2022.
Yeah, to me, especially with the way the right tackle class looks next year, which is basically Trent Brown, who's not playing, and Jermaine Ifedi, who's 30 or I don't know, he's not that great. It's still right tackle to me, and I'm not going to force the team to take a right tackle. Not that I can, but I wouldn't force the Chargers to take a right tackle just for the sake of taking one in the first round. But if we're guessing and assuming there's a half decent one there, I think that's the number one need. As much as I think, obviously edge rusher, interior defensive line, we just talked about Draymond Jones. You can get someone like that in the third round. I don't know. Again, draft by draft, I don't know. I just feel like right tackle is still that premier option you want to take in the first round.
I think the three draft needs you listed would be my top three. The only problem I'm having is like the thing with edge rushers is the hit rate on edge rushers falls pretty significantly after the first round. Unfortunately, It's just like you have to find a top guy. Like, there's not many Joey Bosa's, Nick Bosa's. Like, you have to go get them in the top 5. And then like obviously last year was like a weird year with Kwity Paye and Rousseau, and like there was just so many like mixed opinions on everyone that all of them fell out of the top 20. But I would say edge rushers are probably going to be our biggest need unless we decide to bring back Nwosu, in which case then it's not a need anymore. But if you're going to be drafting in the first round, I think you have to go edge just because there's very few edge players that like have a high hit rate in the second round of the draft.
Yeah, and I think Brennan Thorne a couple of weeks ago was charting true sack rate or whatever it is, and then charting the high quality sacks. And I'm pretty sure the top 30 guys on his list, like 28 of them were first round picks for edge rushers and interior defensive linemen.
Just how it is.
Yeah, I think edge is definitely a possibility, just given the hit rate. I'm fine with any of those three: edge, interior defensive line, right tackle. Also depends on like who's available, because we could talk about number one need, but like, if by the time the Chargers are selecting at, let's say they're selecting at 20 or 21, or what some people want to say in 32, by the time they're selecting, it might be different, depth and different players there, right? Like, if they were selecting as a playoff team in this draft, Rashawn Slater would not be on the board, right? So, there are options like that I think change. So I think you do have to go a little bit based on player there. But yeah, definitely at this point, in some order, I would actually probably put right tackle 1, then edge, then interior defensive line, because I think that there's at least some things you can do with interior defensive line, particularly in the free agent class, more so than the gross right tackle free agent list that Tyler just read a couple minutes ago. So there's actually some things you can do there. All right. I actually don't remember this one. Was Boogie Basham available when we drafted Palmer? He was
later
second
said
round.
no.
Basham was the second round pick.
Yeah, I would think
by the
so.
Bills.
I would think that was what was the case.
But he was available when the Chiefs took Bolton, and that was a mistake.
Yeah.
But maybe Bolton's playing well. I don't know.
I'm not sure either. Tristan Howard would. Okay, so we basically said IDL, edge, and right tackle in some order. The top 3 is the fourth one after that. CB or DB.
I'd have to see kind of how the year plays out, because I might go right back to interior offensive line for that one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Tyler.
Because I like Abuji, and I thought he was going to stabilize everything, but then here we are, ACL tear, and of all the things to get, it's not like a broken hand or something. He tore his ACL. He's a journeyman guy, not exactly young. So that changes everything. And so, yeah, I honestly think the next need would be interior offensive line.
Yeah, I think interior offensive line is definitely fair. It wouldn't shock me if at some point they're considering drafting linebackers again, considering the state of their linebacker room with Kenneth Murray, depending if we see improvement there. But yeah, I don't know what the deal with Drew Tranquill is going to be either, what his relative health is with all the injuries he's had in the last few years. So I would probably say fourth need DB, but we'll see what happens there. Another super chat from Envy Talent. How are you guys feeling about Staley and the fourth down calls? I guess this is after the Ravens game, where finally, for the first time, we saw the fourth down calls be unsuccessful. So how do you guys feel currently about Staley's aggressiveness on fourth down?
Yeah,
Arjun, do you
love
have
it.
stats on that?
What do you mean stats?
Well, like they were converting at a clip.
Well, they were
no problem for a while. And then
I think they were 7 for 7, and then now they're probably like 7 for 9 or something.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they were 7 for 8, not including, or it's 7 for 7 if you don't include the Tai Long throw.
Yeah.
That one. But yeah, so yeah, they were 7 for 7. Now they're like 7 for 9 or 7 for 8. Yeah.
So I mean, I love the aggressiveness. I'm always a process over results type of guy anyway. So even if they weren't converting, the process to keep going for it on fourth down shows that he has trust in this guys. He understands the statistics behind it, which is awesome to see. And like the thing you have to think about is like most NFL teams aren't woke on fourth down. So their defenses aren't practicing fourth and short situations like the Chargers are. So you're putting the defense already in a tough situation by hurrying up to the line and having the play ready to go. And on top of that, the defense probably hasn't practiced much in the offseason about what to do in those type of situations. And Envy, if you didn't know, Brandon Staley is actually a part of PFF. That's why
Nice.
or he got an offer from, I'm kidding. But like he's all the PFF guys love him. I love him obviously since he's our coach. But yeah, those type of fourth down decisions you don't see made by many coaches, if any, I would say outside of like Kevin Stefanski and John Harbaugh.
You can follow Brandon Staley on Twitter at PFF Brandon. He's there on the website. But yeah, no, I don't think last game really changed how I feel about fourth down. Like one of them was they were down 24-6, and at that point we knew they were losing anyway. So it's just like, well, maybe if you convert this fourth down, you kind of get some momentum and get back into the game. And if you don't, game's already over anyway. So like to me, missing on that fourth down conversion wasn't a massive deal. So I still feel pretty confident about Staley in the fourth down situation. And the reality is when they're in their opponent's territory, like they don't have a kicker. Like that's the status of this team right now with Vizcaino, or at least not a kicker that they trust. So I think that also contributes to being more aggressive on fourth down than maybe the average NFL team is, in addition to Staley's analytical philosophy. So I still feel pretty comfortable with Staley going for it on fourth down. And like someone said in the comments, like it really hasn't cost them a game. Like it's won them games and it hasn't lost them any. They lost the Ravens game for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I love them going for it on fourth down. And I just like it to keep the defenses or the opposing team on their toes, even not just for the fourth downs. There was a play in the Raiders game where I believe is the end of the third quarter was approaching. And they went up to the line and they were like, okay, we're going to snap it. And you really don't know. Like if it was Rivers, because we watched Rivers and that Chargers team and Lynn and McCoy, they go, fourth down, clap, 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 yell, 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 call timeout because it was always taken, instead of the delay of game, they're just trying to get that defense to jump. This team, you don't really know what they're going to do. So in that game against the Raiders, clock's winding down in the third quarter, clap, 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 clap. But then, and then the defense jumps off sides or whatever it was because they're like, I think they're actually going to go for it. I think they're actually going to do this. They didn't, but it got them. What did the Raiders do last week against the Broncos? The exact same thing. They did the exact same. Derek Carr did the exact same thing. End of the second or third quarter, not second quarter, first quarter or third quarter, and they got the Broncos to jump. So I love that they're keeping on the defense on the toes like that. Even if it's not fourth down, it's just keep them guessing.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's the right attitude to approach it with, and yeah, just keeps them guessing. And there's actually like Tyler said, a higher chance that they actually might jump. So I think that's definitely the philosophy to work it with. Kareem asks, Balaga probably going to be cut, right? Probably, definitely.
Yeah,
he's been cut. When Tom Telesco made that contract initially, and then does Balaga really change your thinking about drafting the right tackle in the first round if he does come back and maybe play some good games, or is it still the same?
I mean, if he comes back after the bye and he's perfectly healthy and plays really well, that obviously will have to change things because, like, But I don't know if I take a guy in the first round though.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, like what yeah, if he comes back from the bye and plays perfectly healthy, then it would change my philosophy. Also, the chances of that happening probably
Yes.
is probably the same odds of this guy making an extra point. So about the same. Uh, all right, Asholik, what season will the Chargers have to start paying top dollar for Herbert? He has 2 plus the 5th-year option, right? So that would be
Yeah.
2024. I think is when they're gonna have to pay
Well,
him.
top
Well,
dollar
he's-
wouldn't be till 2026 then.
Well, yeah, that's when the contract would kick in, but they could
Mhm.
technically extend him earlier than that. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like, just based on my understanding, Chargers usually wait until the last year of a
Mhm.
player's deal to extend them, right? Bosa, Keenan Allen, anyone else I'm missing? Because they haven't done it with Mike Williams for obvious reasons, but
Mhm.
didn't do it with Hunter Henry. So yeah, like I think they're gonna wait until like the final year of Herbert's contract, which in my opinion is gonna be a mistake. You always want to be one of the first ones to get a deal done because
yeah,
eventually that deal becomes like you could set the market, but eventually that deal is gonna be overtaken by someone else. So when you look at like Joe Burrow, right? Like I don't know how much he's gonna get. I think I have my own opinions on Burrow. I'm not gonna share, but if you pay top dollar for Herbert early on, then you're not waiting to see what other players get, and then you have to set the market again. You want to set the market early. The thing with Herbert is like I feel like he's such like a humble dude that like he won't like ask for too much. Like he just want like I could see him taking that Tom Brady route, hopefully, where he just like I'll take a little bit of a pay cut, just I still want to be paid a lot, but let's have a good team. Let's give me a good offensive line for once in my life, and maybe we'll figure out some of the other contract stuff later. But Josh Allen got 40. The Ravens, you can see they made a mistake by not extending Lamar after his 3rd year. Now he's going to get more than 40 mil. So you have to pay him early. You have to pay him after his 3rd year. If you wait until year 5, he's getting over 50 mil, unfortunately.
yeah. I mean, to me, I think they should be extending him as early as possible and do exactly what the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes. Like just give him 10 years, 500 million, and shove it. And then you don't have to worry about it, or you renegotiate it later down the road. But people make big deals about the contracts these guys get on like Twitter all the time, and it's like, well, the market changes, right? I remember when people were freaking out about, Andrew Luck and Cam Newton and Phillip Rivers setting the market, what, 6-7 years ago, and now the whole market is different with guys getting 20-25 million more than those guys got at the time. So to me, like, I'm a proponent of definitely paying earlier and that paying off later when you can sign a right tackle or sign somebody, because then the price for other quarterbacks has jumped up as well. So I definitely think that's the way to go in terms of paying Herbert. All right, we got a super chat from Tron Forward. Chargers' biggest losses seem to come from zero blitz. How can they exploit it with their roster? Belichick will run it again.
I think as long as they're running zero blitz, I think, okay, so if you watch Herbert watches the film, he had options. There were things to go to at the game last week, and he just didn't. I really think this is, if they go zero blitz and they have no deep safety help, everyone's matched up one-on-one, whatever, I think you have to start finding Keenan Allen, even if that isn't Lombardi designed a lot of plays to go to the perimeter guy or to go to a different player, whatever. And I just think let's just go back to kind of with the way things were, I guess, with Keenan Allen, where if it's cover zero, I guarantee the corner one-on-one against the DB against Keenan Allen is probably not going to win that matchup. And everyone else is spread out. There's no deep help. So I'm finding ways to get Keenan Allen involved again. Just go back to that connection, because there were so many timing things, so many route different things, whatever, that Herbert relied on for like Williams to get open, but he was hurt, or Palmer to get open, but Humphrey was on him, or even Austin Eckler just on the sideline for like a screen pass, and it just wasn't working. But Keenan Allen just found different ways to get open, but he wasn't the primary read in that offense or in that call for whatever reason. I just think you need to go back to him in some way. And I think Belichick will do something different than a bunch of cover zero blitz. I think he's going to actually double Keenan Allen, take away Keenan Allen, just like the Ravens did, and make things difficult for Herbert. But if they decide to go one-on-one, no deep safety help, one-on-one with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Josh Palmer, Jalen Guyton, whatever, Like, find Keenan Allen. He's your best receiver.
Yeah, I talked about it in my video. Like I'm confused with his usage and like how he's supposed to be the third and fourth down guy, but they're going to Josh Palmer against Marlon Humphrey. Like I was getting hate that like, Chargers shouldn't always throw to Keenan Allen on third and fourth down, but you're paying the dude 20 mil, and it seems like Mike Williams is wide receiver 1, right? And instead, you're telling me you would rather mix it up by throwing to Josh Palmer on a hitch route against Marlon Humphrey, one of the best man corners in the game. That absolutely made no sense to me. But yeah, I mean, Herbert this year hasn't been that bad against cover zero. Like, I mean, he's hasn't made like terrible decisions. So per PFF, he has an 80.6 PFF passing grade. So that's right around like the top 12-ish for what it is. He only has a negative 0.15 EPA, which I guess that's kind of like bad, but the cover zero is kind of like super high variance, and he's only had 11 plays against cover zero. So there's not really too much information to go off of. Baltimore only ran cover zero like 3 times. Kansas City ran it like 7. So yeah, so I mean, I don't know what Belichick's gonna do. I'm sure he's gonna try to like mix it up with the fronts and stuff. And obviously, the Chargers got destroyed last year with the stunts that the twists they ran. But Rashawn Slater and Matt Fowler are better than Forrest Lamp and whoever the hell was starting at that point at left tackle. So
who was starting that game? Because that was the game Sam Tevi had his kid. So would it have been
Pipkins? And then Norden
probably Pipkins and Martin. Oh God, fun times.
Yeah, they're gonna take advantage of that right side. Like they're gonna overload. They're gonna blitz Van Noy. Like Norden and Schofield was on that 2018 Chargers playoff run, right? And Norden, obviously, they know what he is from last year. So a lot of just Frank Smith better come in clutch this week. Otherwise, it's not gonna be pretty.
Yeah. I mean, I also just wouldn't mind if they had like some more quick plays, like sort of what Dak was doing against the Chargers a little bit, where it's just like, well, I know the pressure's coming, and so I'm just going to chuck the ball, and we have some designs where I can get it within 2 seconds, and then therefore Joey Bosa won't be a problem, right? In some instances, right? So I think you could sort of do a similar thing against the Patriots, where you just get the ball out quicker, because a lot of the problems were, just Herbert holding the ball for a little too long and then nothing coming open. So I think if you design some stuff that, gets the ball out quicker, that can at least help the situation. But yeah, we'll see. I definitely think Belichick's going to watch that Ravens game and attack pretty much every problem we talk about on this podcast because he's Bill Belichick. NV Talent sent us another super chat. Do you think this special teams staff will be returning next year if this Andre Roberts pickup doesn't work out? Also, what's your favorite Chargers color scheme?
I mean, Staley's all about his relationships and everything.
Yeah.
So I would guess yes. You'd have to tell me who's pulling the trigger on some of the decisions.
Right.
Whether, with KJ Hill and Larry Roundtree at returner, is that a Swinton thing? Or is that maybe someone a little above them trying to make sure that their picks get out there and find some value? Because if it's Swinton making those decisions, then I think you have some questions. But if it is Swinton making those decisions, that means that Staley's letting Swinton make those decisions, which means he trusts him to make those decisions, which means he's probably sticking around anyway. So I think he sticks around no matter what. And I think they also just need, they have 9-10 draft picks next year as well. The special teams will get better over time. So I think he'll stick around.
Yeah, I think that he sticks around too. As hard as they've been under Swinton, there's not a whole lot he can do right now because it is a personnel issue. Now they're starting to fix the personnel by bringing in Andre Roberts, but the guys that they have on special teams coverage and blocking right now are just simply not good. Other than Ryan Smith, who's had some okay moments, but other than him, there really just isn't a guy in there. And I think they'll need probably another year to figure out what they want to do with some of those guys. Because they just benched Larry Roundtree last game and put in Joshua Kelly. Joshua Kelly is terrible at special teams. We saw it all the time last year. So, I think it's really a blocking and a coverage problem in addition to the kicking game. So, unless you make personnel changes there, which it's hard to really make mid-season when it comes to blocking and coverage. I don't know if there's like a whole lot you can do. Obviously, you can replace the kicker, but the kicker isn't the only problem on special teams right now, even if Andre Roberts does work out. So I would think Swin would be back. Favorite Chargers color scheme is white on white. That's the cleanest look by default, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Tristan brought up a good point in the chat. Like Swinton's in Staley's ear with the analytics stuff, or in-game decision. Like he's part of that process with Smash and Aditya Christian. So Christian. So I think he's gonna stay no matter what, even if like the Vizcaino pick does, or pick from training camp doesn't work out. And then to answer his other question, we're at 15 drops, 6 games in the year, so that's 2.5 a game.
Yeesh.
So not very good. But I think Herbert's done a good job getting over that. And I think Keenan Allen just hasn't had a great year to start the year in terms of catching the ball. Like he's been he's had some really nice catches, but he's also had some really bad drops in key situations. And then I'm a powder blue on white type of guy, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not bad either. I'm warming up to white on white as my favorite right now. But we agree that white is good.
Yeah.
Sounds racist.
Racist.
Okay. Yeah. Whatever. That's what we kicked. No, never mind. Forget it.
Oh God. Okay. I'm trying to get back on track here. All right. This is an interesting one from Wrong Speedy. Do you guys think this Watson to the Dolphins shenanigans is happening?
I'll see it when I believe it, I guess.
No comment from me.
No comment. I mean,
I'll say no because we keep hearing about it, and no.
Yeah, I think it could happen, but I also just think it's like a really risky trade for Miami to make without further clarification on Watson's issues, and that whole grand jury thing isn't until February. So I mean, if you're trying to do a trade now before the deadline, then it's like, all right, well then all the picks kind of have to be conditional, because I mean if he's going to prison, that's a problem. So I don't know how that's gonna all pan out. But yeah, and also there was a report that Watson's only willing to waive his like no trade clause thing for Miami. So then it's just Miami competing against Miami, which doesn't really make much sense in terms of why this needs to get done now. So I think that Miami definitely has interest, and I think they want to move on from Tua, but I don't think Watson's probably going to happen this year. Oh man, this is a debate. Kareem asks, what's your guys' opinion on drafting kickers in later rounds?
Yeah, go for it. Whatever. Like, define later rounds, I guess. As long as we're talking,
I guess
day three. Obviously, day 3. It's a swing like any other pick, in my opinion. I think go for it, especially in a year we have a bunch of compensatory picks or whatever the Chargers have next year. Why not? Like, especially if it hasn't worked elsewhere so far, go for it. Don't trade up in the second round for Robert Aguayo, but make some. You can go for it. Sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality, if they're gonna have like 4 projected 6-round picks next year, then like try it. See what it is. I'm more in favor of it this year than I was last year, just because I think they'll have the amount of picks and capital if they want to do it. But I mean, it's also a crapshoot, like most of the rest of the draft in some ways, because it's like, people are like, oh, the Bengals succeeded with Evan McPherson. And I'm like, did you guys watch the Packers game? And I think he's like 3 for 6 in his last 6 attempts or something like that. So, or you could do the Patriots thing where they drafted the crazy Nazi kicker guy instead of Rodrigo Blankenship.
Let's not do that.
So that's also problematic. So like, scouting of kickers, I think, is just so hit or miss. But if you're in the 6th round anyway, and you have 3 or 4 projected 6-round picks, I guess why not? But I think that still that person that they draft should still be subject to some kind of competition. Like I don't think they should be given the job, and I think they would have to fight for it. If you're talking about rounds 5 through 7 in that kind of a range. Domsky, what do you think of a Brandon Cooks trade?
Well, you spelled Brandon wrong, my guy.
Yeah, it's an I. It is an I.
No,
But
it's all right. It's I would be neutral to it, but I would kind of lean on like it doesn't really make sense because they're not really supposed to be going all in this year, and like how I understand like he has experience with the Saints offense, but how many touches is he gonna get, and like what is he gonna be in Jalen Guyton's role, or is he gonna have another role made for him? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and like is if we're trading for him just for him to be a downfield threat like Guyton was, then it's probably a bad trade. But if he's gonna be, I don't know. It's a weird fit. It's a weird fit with this offense.
And technically, at this point, he has no special teams value, so they wouldn't bring him on unless they're kicking out Guyton.
Well, no special teams value hasn't prevented them from keeping guys before, so I don't know. As far as Brandon Cooks, well, I'm just looking at his contract on SpotTrack, so I think he's a void free agent in 2023, so he is under contract for next year. So if you're throwing that into the calculus of Mike Williams and signing all the receivers, he does have a cap hit of 5.6 million next year. Or no, sorry. Oh no, his cap hit is. Oh geez, no, his cap hit is 15.5 million next year. So that makes this a fuck no.
Yeah, but this trade. Is it when you trade for a player? I'm pretty sure like their contract isn't guaranteed. Like with when you traded for Trey Turner, like we didn't have to pay him anything, right? Like it could just be a 1-year rental and then pay Mike hopefully next year, and then let Cooks go in free agency. But the thing with that is like I remember I think if I looked it up I would be able to find it. Like Brandon Cooks is specifically said he doesn't want to be traded anymore. Like he would rather play in Houston.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I mean the guy's gotten passed around way too much. Unfortunately, he's a good player, but yeah, I don't think he's gonna be a guy that would like be open to a trade, even though he's playing under Davis Mills and that Houston staff. So that's probably going to be like a less than 5% chance that happens, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's a very big chance either. But it's just like, so I guess Houston could absorb some of that contract, but like, what's even the point for them? Because then you're just taking a weapon away, and they already have a bunch of picks and rebuild stuff anyway, over there. Like, so I don't know. And if the Chargers were to keep him on the roster, it's a 15.5 million cap hit with 7.5 dead cap. So even if you were to try to get rid of him, like, there's no point there. I don't know. I don't know how you would even do that. So I don't know. Brandon Cook's probably not going to happen. All right. And this comes from Wrong Speedy. If Jared Cook is gone next year, do you think we sign, draft, or trade for tight end?
So they only have Trey McKitty under contract. I'm pretty sure Donald Parham would come back. I'm sure they retain him. Anderson has a pretty big role, so I wouldn't surprise me if he came back too. But I could also see them moving on. But they have Trey McKitty, and this is part of the reason I'm okay with the pick still, because they have nobody under contract next year but Trey McKitty, and so this is where he steps in after a year of development. Again, they tried deep shots with him. He wasn't open because Derwin James was in coverage. They tried deep shots with him at the scrimmage. I saw him juke out Derwin James at training camp. There's something there. And they involved him a lot in their first team offense. He's just inactive right now. So I think there's definitely a role for him. He is tight end 2 next year if Parham comes back. So I think they can just kind of, find another blocking tight end, maybe get one more, sign another guy. But I don't think it'll be like trade or anything significant.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very least, Donald Parham will be back because they think his contract is URFA rights. So they basically offer him like the minimum of $600K and he has to take it or something. So, that's unfortunate for him because I do think a team might consider paying him. But he's pretty much guaranteed to be back next year unless something happens. And then, you would have Trey McKitty who's going to be there. And then Anderson is a restricted free agent, I think, or something along those lines. But pretty much guaranteed is Parham and McKitty on the team. Cook, I don't know. I guess we'll see how Cook looks the rest of the year in terms of whether they would re-sign him again next year. But to me, I feel like that this seems kind of like a 1-year rental thing. And then, they'll try the tight ends that they have next year. Like, also doesn't help that Cook is dropping balls at the rate that he is. So, plus he's a little bit older. and doesn't give you like a ton of blocking value. So I think that that's probably just a 1-year type deal. But yeah, I mean, they could draft another tight end in the maybe later rounds on day 3 if they want to. They already kind of have McKitty, but I think that they would probably just roll with Parham as tight end 1, and then probably McKitty, and then maybe Anderson as tight end 2, 3. Like that's probably what they would do. I think that seems like the way to go there. I don't think you need to do too much more than that.
Do we really think Parham is tight end 1 next year if Cook is gone? Like, I guess I could see it, but they're also not really like, yeah, he's a lot on the field. But he doesn't strike me as a guy that they've used a lot in the passing game, and that's just a big leap. I think he can do it, but like, do you actually think they believe he's a tight end 1 next year?
I don't know. Maybe not, but I mean, like, I feel like you don't have any other choice next year unless you want to.
Well, then there's that, yeah.
Yeah. Unless you want to draft a tight end high, or like, I don't know, like if Zach Ertz doesn't re-sign with the Cardinals, like, but
you gotta monitor the Dallas Goedert situation in Philly. If he's not extended, then he's probably gonna leave, and then just like we had a really good recruiter in Balaga, his former quarterback, Easton Stick. Right. Now
finally something good for him.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Easton Stick gets to do something. We're finally getting value out of that pick.
His value in that would be like really fun to see. But I mean, I think Goddard's one of the best all around tight ends. Obviously, like he's a pretty decent receiver, and then obviously he's a really good blocker. I'm not sure if they need any more blockers or if they just want like a pure receiving tight end like Cook is, but I mean, if he leaves, I don't know how much he's going to get on the open market. Hunter Henry got the 12.5, and Andrews got a little bit more than that, I think. So, yeah, I don't know. We're probably going to have to pay Mike, and if we let him walk, then we better be spending big in other places. Although I don't think we let Mike walk, But I don't know how much money we can dedicate to offensive skill players because we do have some holes to fill next year, especially on defense.
Yeah, so Dallas Goedert is a free agent next year if the Eagles don't re-sign him. But I mean, I feel like they just traded Ertz because they'll re-sign Goedert, but we'll see if how that situation plays out. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, it probably wouldn't be like a super rich contract, and maybe you can extract some value from him. But I don't know. That whole situation with the Eagles right now is not great. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas Goedert decided to walk and they got fucked with both Ertz and Goedert. That would be very Philadelphia. Other than that, we get this question every week, but should the Chargers pick up Mitchell Schwartz if he's healthy? He's not healthy. That's the problem. So, yeah. Also, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but there was a picture of Mitchell Schwartz at the Eagles game when they played the Chiefs, and he's lost a lot of weight, so he's not anywhere close to playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
Good scouting.
Not. Yeah, good scout. I just saw a picture on Instagram, and he's like, God, maybe half the size he was physically. Yeah, he's lost a lot of weight. Yeah, but yeah, I don't think they go without Goddard. I would kind of be surprised. Yeah, I mean, back to the Parham conversation, like, I don't think that they necessarily view him as a tight end 1, but like it goes back to I don't know if they really have a choice. Like unless they, do want to go for a high caliber free agent, or if they want to go for like a high pick in the draft, but like they have so many other needs in the draft to the point where I can't imagine them drafting a tight end that high. Or like, at least the year that they drafted like Hunter Henry or something. Plus, then they let Hunter Henry walk anyway. So I don't know. I would just see Parham as T1 unless they want to find some other kind of solution to that.
Also,
yeah,
Parham's an exclusive rights free agent. So, okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant by IRFA. So they basically just can offer him the minimum and he'll be back unless some injury or something happens. Like to see McKitty play before we sign Parham to a multi-year extension. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't know if McKitty exists though, so that's also the problem. K Rich asks, is it alarming that Tristan Vizcaino is still on the team?
I don't know if it's alarming. I would have liked to see. No, Okay, the only drawback of them not going for it on fourth downs is that we haven't seen him make a lot of kicks or attempt a lot of kicks. But he's like 5 for 6. I'm not saying that's good, but like I think they I don't know. I don't know if it's alarming yet.
Yeah,
I wish they kicked more.
I agree with Tyler on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's alarming, only because they don't kick field goals. So that portion of the game has been removed with how often they're going through it with fourth down and enemy territory. I think that at some point it could cost them a game. Like, I mean, if they're driving down the field and they need a field goal with a minute left and Vizcaino misses a crucial kick, like that, I mean, could set up, potentially working out Dustin Hopkins or going after another kicker. But at this point, I don't think it's a big deal just because Vizcaino himself hasn't cost them a game yet. And until he does that, I don't think they're very likely to do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in terms of Tom Telesco history, right? Like, it took Caleb Sturgis or Younghoe Koo, blowing games to the point where that's when he actually makes the move at kicker. So I don't think that the Vizcaino thing is going to happen. And I think Staley has, at least, with how often he goes for it on fourth down, has pretty much reduced Vizcaino to just kick touchbacks and also extra points. Not doing half of that job right now, but maybe he'll turn around.
Or both, honestly. Feels like they're pooching a lot of kicks, like, to make them return, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's also a problem. Envy Talent, is Joe's play calling referring to Lombardi as bad as they say on, I think he meant first down?
Yes.
Yeah, Arjun had a not so great stat for this. I forget what it was yesterday, but wasn't good.
Yeah, no, Chargers ranked 25th in offensive EPA on first down out of 32 teams. So that's not good. And also, here's another stat. Justin Herbert ranks 26th in average depth of target on first down. And so really the only top 10 the only two top 10 quarterbacks outside of Justin Herbert in the bottom 10 are Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray. But they have a low average time to throw anyway. But
yeah,
it just seems like there's no aggressiveness on first down, forcing Herbert to be in these third and long situations.
Yeah, I mean, it's also been a thing early in games too, where there's this whole feeling out process, and then maybe in the third and fourth quarter they start getting aggressive. But yeah, I definitely think first downs are a problem. Steven is our local Joe Lombardi defender. He's not here right now, but I do think Joe Lombardi has done a good job on a number of respects. But the first down, I would say also early game play calling, not been great in my opinion. I don't know if it's as bad as people say to the point where I'm fire him, but
no,
it is
not
concerning. But
yeah, Herbert has 8 dropped passes on first down. Also
a problem.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Because they have 13 total, I think. So that's wow. Okay.
15 total.
Oh, 15.
So half is coming on first down, which is bad.
Ugh.
And Herbert also has 4 picks on first down, which is tied for first. So
really,
yeah. So it could be him, just being dumb also in certain situations.
Yeah, because wait, so he has 4 picks or 3 picks? You said on first down.
4.
So the Washington football team interception, which was not a quick whatever throw. Dallas was actually a pretty far target to Allen.
Yeah.
What are the other 2? I can't think of the other 2.
Oh, sorry. Okay, no, it's only 3. Sorry, it's only 3.
Oh, okay.
It's because PFF has they chart an interception even if there's a flag on the play. So the flag where the pass was tipped, I should have put the no play filter on. But the play to Cook where it was tipped up and caught by someone. Okay. It was a PI. That was 3, and then 4 was the Baltimore one.
Interesting. Okay, so those 3 weren't, or none of those were short passes. Really, they were slightly further. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and that maybe contributes to the depth of target thing that Arjun was talking about earlier, in terms of not being able to convert at a higher depth of target. So yeah, 3 or 4 and 5 of the picks being on first down is not a great sign for the offense right there. For sure. All right, let's get some final questions and super chats in. Jay Blue, shout out to the super chat here. Didn't ask a question, but Becca Schoon did get us a super chat from Tyler's mom earlier. So, you know, Tyler, even though his mom's in Cabo, came through clutch on this one today. So yeah, but yeah, let's get in some final questions and super chats, and yeah, then we'll wrap it up in this last 10 minutes or so.
Okay, chat or you guys, confidence level in the Chargers beating the Patriots on Sunday, having watched that Ravens game.
That's tough. I'll say 60%. I still feel relatively confident just because the Patriots aren't that good this year, right? But like, it is still Bill Belichick and it is still that Patriots defense. I do think they have more guys that you can kind of roast in the pass game, though. Like the fact that Gilmore's not there anymore is huge. And Jalen Mills just gets burned on every play. And I know that from experience. So, you know, I think that they are weaker than they were last year. And plus, they don't really have like the whole Cam Newton like kind of read option game to like really toast them, particularly in the passing game. You know, like people said, I'm not really afraid of like Mac Jones, but I think Mac Jones showed against the Cowboys he's pretty serviceable. So
Yeah.
I think that game all comes down to what the Patriots run game is, and if the Chargers can defend it. And then, yeah, I mean, what Belichick's going to do defensively against Herbert. But I don't think Belichick has the talent on that defense that he did last year, kind of when he shut down Herbert. At least in my opinion, from what I've seen so far. What do you guys think as far as confidence interval in beating the Patriots?
Yeah, I think Tyler said 60. I would say like 75. And like I moved my number up just because I think Brandon Staley's coaching advantage over Bill Belichick in non-football, non-X's and O's is going to be a deciding factor, like being aggressive on fourth downs and throwing the ball early. We're going to get hopefully some linebackers back. I don't know what Kenneth Murray's status is going to be, but I think Drew should be back. If Justin Jones is back, that'll be awesome because Patriots will. I can check their 12 personnel usage. Tyler, if you wanna talk real quick.
Yeah, I'm much less confident for this game after that Ravens game. I still think they would win when we pick them later in the year or this week. I'll pick them to win, barring some crazy injury. But I can't say I'm not super confident. Like I'll go under 60%. I'll say 55% chance that they win. And again, I think they can win. I didn't think that Patriots team was all that good last year. And granted, coaching was a big issue, but they were just better in every phase, it seemed like. And I don't know. The line's kind of hurt. The run defense isn't good, and the special teams isn't good. That's kind of like last year. But they do have the coaching advantage, which, you know, it makes me breathe a little bit. But this is a game I'd really like to see Mike Williams step up. Not that he hasn't already this year, but I feel like when you take away Keenan Allen, who's left? And I feel like Mike Williams needs to show that unless they decide to take away Mike Williams, he needs to show that he's worth the contract. Because now, if all the attention goes to Keenan Allen like it was against Baltimore, got to step up. You're assumedly healthy. You're in a contract year. You got to show them that when Keenan Allen is double covered, that you can step up.
You want to give us those stats, Arjun?
Yeah, sorry. So despite signing Hunter Henry and Johnny Smith, Patriots ranked 17th in 12 personnel usage. I don't know how.
Oh my gosh, what's the point?
I know, but they rank 5th in 22 personnel usage, and I know they like to use that guy Jacob Johnson. I like to say with the dreads, as their fullback, and then obviously they have Jonnu and Hunter Henry. So there will be like a small amount of 22 personnel usage, but yeah, it has been a lot of or not a lot, but like a good amount of 11 personnel. You know, that's just how they roll, and it's kind of weird because like they gave like 20 mil a year to both Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith combined to not run 12 personnel as much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just weird. I remember people were posting about the Boston TE party that was going to happen, and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to be a thing in this game at all. I think I'm at 60%, and then health is a huge factor too. Like if you're telling me Balaga and Justin Jones are going to play, I probably boost that from like 60 to maybe 70. Like same with Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquil, just because that's huge too. So if they get those guys back, I feel relatively confident. If they don't, then I think maybe it stays around that 60 or 55%, like Tyler said. Envy talent, who would you get to help out Bosa? Any names? Is there anyone midseason or next offseason you would get to help out Bosa on the defensive line?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Like, I mean, you can go with any different name. You can even go secondary, but I mean, we sort of talked about some of the interior guys. There's no way the Bears are giving up Travis Gibson at this point, but I hear he's doing pretty well with the Bears as an edge rusher. I don't know if they take him over in Mosu.
I mean, I think.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, to me, it's less like one name and just getting consistent production from everyone else on like the edge and the defensive line. To me, like I don't think you need like a first round defensive tackle necessarily, but I do think that you need like some guys that are there every play and are consistent from game to game, because their strategy with Bosa should be working in terms of like double and triple covering him and letting other people get the sack. Not working right now though, because no one else can win one-on-one on this roster right now, at least with consistency. So not really a specific name that I'm interested in, but I think that they need a collection of guys and kind of an overhaul in the offseason. Tyler's dad joins the show. So there's his super chat. And I guess we'll take this one with Thomas Martinez as our last one of the day. Are we concerned with Staley taking a few lumps, learning as a head coach with the, quote, his guys narrative, Eric Banks, decisions with the defensive back rotation, Amon versus Neiman?
Yeah.
I'll go for it, Arjun.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird, but every coach has their guys. Like I think outside of maybe like Bill Belichick, who's just like a stone cold killer, like every coach is gonna have his type of guys that like, okay, we believe in this guy. Like I believe in this guy more than someone else, which that's not really a problem. I wanted to throw out some names, maybe for Bosa to help. I like taking a flyer on Jadeveon Clowney. That was one guy like I was like kind of excited for. Like, okay, maybe get him for like under $8 million or something this free agency, but obviously got 10. Now he's having a pretty good season, so I don't know what he's going to be worth next season, but he would fit pretty well in this defense. And I actually think the Browns are running a similar scheme to the Chargers with a lot of too high stuff, just because they're like that smart of an organization. Larry Ogunjobi, he's not that bad of an interior D-line guy. Sheldon Richardson could be like a nice flyer to get, but yeah, they just need someone to help take some of the pressure off Bosa. What the Ravens did obviously worked, and they're you can't just have someone get triple teamed as much and expect to win.
No.
Yeah. So I guess, are we concerned with Staley taking a few lumps with his guys stuff, with Banks, all that? I don't know. I mean, I am concerned about just the decision making. Banks, I mean, was a chance. It didn't really work out, but I wasn't really losing too much sleep over taking Banks over Merrill or Banks over Broughton. I mean, I don't think those were the right moves. The decisions with the DB rotation is the most concerning one for me, just going forward, because I think that he was sort of trying to make a point to Asante Samuel as a rookie player. And that isn't like terrible in my opinion, but like Michael Davis coming off the field when he's your best cornerback. I know people were talking about how he does against the run and tackling, but like to me, you just can't take him off the field. And so I don't know what really that was about. So to me, I think going forward, the defensive decisions will be something to watch. But that just might be guys that are either not playing well that game or are in Staley's doghouse for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why Michael Davis was, but Asante Samuel did overjump a few passes against the Browns. Like Tyler said, though, I think that leads to some overcorrection where it's just like, well, Asante Samuel wasn't playing as aggressive this week, and it cost the team a little bit when he wasn't doing that, just because of the overcorrection from the over aggressiveness of the Browns game. So, I think there's a balance to it, and guys will sort of pick up on what Staley wants over time, and then sort of the way that he leads. But to me, I think the decision making personnel is probably the most concerning aspect as of right now. But we'll see. All right, you guys got any final thoughts today?
Michael Davis being a poor tackler, I mean, maybe, I guess, but he's only like 39th in missed tackle rate. It's not like he's awful. Like, people are like, oh, he's
Yeah.
just such a liability in the run game. And part of that, it could be making the plays, like not being able to make the tackle. But as far as missed tackles go, it's not any different than any other year. So if you're benching him because he's not good against the run, but the stats say that he's basically the same as he was pretty much any other year, then what did you expect heading into this year when you signed him? So it's a little confusing to me. We'll see what they do moving forward. Hopefully Chris Harris Jr. comes back healthy and good, because as Steven watched him, I have not watched him, but Steven says he wasn't that great. You can kind of tell during the game that was sort of the case. So hopefully he comes back and plays well. Otherwise, why is he on the field over Davis?
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Arjun, any final thoughts?
Yeah, let's just enjoy a good weekend of football and not have to, just focus on the Chargers. We can watch some other teams, and hopefully some of the games will be good enough to where it's worthwhile to watch the NFL Sunday without the Chargers.
Yeah, I hope everyone makes appointment viewing to watch the green out at Allegiant Stadium when the Eagles take over, and we get to make jokes about how the Raiders have no fans. So that'll be fun. But thanks for joining us on today's Q&A. Thanks to everyone who gave us a super chat, and we'll see you guys next time.